the people that I had around me at one point, I would share some really, I would share things with them, and I was betrayed. Had things I shared with people that were shared in circles that I wasn't ready to have shared. I had a girl friend at one point um, tell a story in front of my husband that my husband didn't know the story. And, it threatened my recovery. I wanted to run away from these people because these people were freaking sick. They're just like drinking people. And like, who would do that? And how, like, all these things would wrap in my brain. And I would just see how hurtful people can be. And I lost trust. I didn't, want to go to these support places. I didn't want to pick up the phone and call these people. Like, these people hurt me. These people lied. These people like took information that they had no right, no business saying, and they started gossiping and they started doing all these things. And, through it all, I'm grateful that I learned that there is one thing that is the most important in my recovery, and that is my relationship with God. And I needed something other than people, places, and things in my life if I was going to have any sort of long-term sobriety. It came to that over and over and over again in my first several years of recovery, that this relationship with this higher power has to grow and has to change somehow, because everywhere I turned, it just felt like I was after disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Even though I had joys and I had incredible things that happened, I became a better mom, a better friend, a better daughter. I still was battling with trusting this being or these something higher than me, I guess. Like this, I use people as my higher power, I guess. And so at one point, at 11 years sober, I'm going to jump to this part because this was pivotal in my recovery. And I've heard this many people in the years since go through so many different battles in their recovery when they're long-term sober. Because I think at some point, I know I definitely got to some point thinking, like, what the hell? Like, I'm 3 years sober now. Like, why is this shit happening? Like, I'm 5 years sober. What the fuck? Like, why am I still feel like this gut wrenching, horrific feeling inside is still kind of there? It came back. Like, why did it come back? Like, I'm doing all these things, and then it would happen again, and then I would get some relief, and then it would happen again, and I would get some relief, and then, at 11 years sober, I was tired. I was like doing all the things necessary. I was going to my meetings. I was calling my sponsors. I was doing all the things that were necessary. But I still found myself in a place that was just so dark inside. I felt like a phony. I felt like I'd go to meetings and people like, oh, what a great share. And I was just like, I was broken inside. I didn't feel I could trust people. And I got to the point, I remember being in counseling and I was going through some stuff in my marriage. And my marriage has not been an easy. Getting in a relationship in recovery, let me tell you, anybody that's out there that wants to do it, fucking run. I mean, like, I love my husband today and we have an incredible relationship, but man, it has been difficult. We have gone through so much turmoil in our marriage, in our relationship, toxicity. We've been abusive to each other. Like my husband has done things to me that have, I still battle with. I've done things to him that he still battles with. We have taken that nail and that hammer with each other and we have pounded it in each other. And we have hurt each other to such a degree that honestly, only God could have healed that for us to still be together. Trust me. But at 11 years sober, we were in counseling together, couples therapy. And we had been separated to go our own ways to get counseling over issues. And we came together with this counselor. And, this is a difficult topic because I think it's something that's happened a lot with women and men, that, abuse comes in many different ways. And, I shared this, I guess I'll share this live. I've never shared it publicly. And I don't want anybody, the reason why is I don't want anybody to think horrible things about my husband, because this is not about, he never did anything intentionally to me to hurt me. And we've done a lot of healing around it. But when I went through heavy duty therapy, it was important in my therapy, my counselor said, to abstain from having sexual relationship. We can't have sex. My husband was just like, what are you talking about? It wasn't cool for him. And I was like, no, we can't. We got to do this. And so he kind of abided at one point. But where I was in my place was I didn't have the ability to speak. And I became very childlike and frozen, and I wasn't able to communicate. And he ended up having sex with me, and I didn't want it. And it happened more than once. And, it took a long time for me to even accept the fact that that happened. That was I just raped by my husband? Like, I had no bruises. I mean, he didn't do anything intentionally, but I clearly felt violated. I felt like hurt. I felt like, can't he see that I don't want this? Can he, can he be that selfish? Like, and we lived with that, and the anger and the problems that came from that in our relationship was deep, because from there, I have hurt him in many ways, in a sexual way that was not healthy, was not pleasant, out of my anger and my bitterness and my rage. And so we were in counseling for this specific reason. And this particular day at 11 years sober, my counselor had said something like, my husband was respecting that we're having no intimacy, and we're just learning at communicating and finding intimacy in communication and connection in that way. And it was happening for a long time. But my counselor, who actually counseled him, it was probably really unhealthy, but she questioned me on this particular day going, is there a reason why you can't move this forward? And why can't you, have sex with your husband now? Like, I mean, it's been this long, and then I don't even know how long the time was. It was probably months and months. And I just felt like that little girl again, betrayed by my father, by my stepmother, by my community. Like, that whole thing came up inside of me of a rage. Like, oh my God, here I am opening myself up and come to get help. And I just felt so alone and so, oh my God, the rage inside of me. I snapped. I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done living, doing all the right things, communicating, talking about my emotions, being vulnerable, telling people about what's going on in my husband's and my relationship with a counselor. I also shared with another woman who agreed with the counselor, like, yeah, you should, like, just, I don't understand what the problem is, Suzanne. And it's just like, I felt like a victim and violated. So I screamed at this fucking bitch counselor, and I said, at the time, I don't call her a bitch now, those issues are over, but I screamed at her so hard and said, you've been abused. How about you go back to your perpetrator and go have sex with them? And I smashed a chair. I smashed her window. I went in a psychotic emotional rage sober. I was sober, completely sober. And at that point, I knew that I was going to die. I was either going to drink or I was going to kill myself, because I'm done. I'm done. done. I'm done with the program. I had nobody. Didn't have my husband, didn't have my counselor, didn't have any of my supports. My sponsor betrayed me. Like, why? Agreeing with my counselor when I reached out, and I found myself running to this lake. I don't even know how I ended up there because I was in a blackout, but I ended up there somehow, and I ran. I remember coming and running to this lake, trying to find this spot, and I found this spot, and I sat down, and I needed smoke, and I'm trying to rush it through my freaking person for a smoke. I just needed to cry. I needed to go run somewhere to cry, just to let it all out. And I knew I couldn't do it anywhere else but at this place, this lake, I guess, I found. And I'm like, how can I off myself? Like I was like, do I jump in the lake? I know how to swim. Like, what am I doing in this place? So I grabbed my cigarettes. And as I grabbed my cigarettes in my purse, I found this red book. And it was like this little book about big. And I looked down, it was like this freaking Bible. And that part of my story I didn't share, but I did not. Jesus, Bible, biblical, higher power, God was not anywhere in my repertoire, let me tell you. I did everything I could to stay away from that animal. I had a big resentment over God and everybody that believed in God, because they were all hypocrites, and people would sit there and say they're godly people. And so I had a big judgment against anything to do with Christianity or Jesus. But here I am. I have no idea how the damn Bible got into my purse, but I ended up looking at it. And I was in this state of mind that I opened up the damn thing, and it was actually a newcomer's, and had like a prayer, like that Christian prayer that they had in it. And I'm just like, no, I'm not doing this. But then I read it, and I'm like, okay, are we going to do this? Because when I was that little girl at 7, when my mom left, and why I turned away from God, is because I was that little girl that did do everything I could to go to church. My family never took me. I'd go to the neighbors. I'd walk blocks to go to this family, to get a ride, to go to church. Because I used to sit at church, and they'd always talk about Jesus is coming. Jesus will save the world. And my little girl wanted to be saved. And I thought, Jesus is going to save me. He's going to save me from my dad hitting me, my stepmother abusing me. He's going to bring my mom back. He's going to do all of that. And I prayed every night for Jesus to move something in the room, so I knew he was there, anything. And he never did. And that church that I went to try to find hope, when I became a teenager, kicked me out because I was a smoker. And at 14 years old, just before I took my first drink, I basically said, fuck you, God. I looked down at the floor and I said, hello, devil, let's walk. And ever since then, when I picked up a drink with the devil and said goodbye to God, I became prettier, likable. My life got better. So I closed my book on God. But that day at that lake, when I'm looking at that Bible and I was staring that whole resentment, that feeling, 11 years sober, in the face, I decided to say that damn prayer. And when I said that damn prayer, I closed my eyes, and I remember in my head going, I hate you. You left me. Everybody I ever loved has hurt me. And as I had my eyes closed, I said, I'm not going to believe you unless you show yourself. I will not do this with you. And instantly, the inside of me, from the bottom of my tips of my toes, the top of my head, was filled. I felt like my whole soul was opened up and was sprinkled this most incredible, unbelievable, undeniable experience and feeling that I've never felt in my entire life.